Welcome everybody to the Definitive UFO News Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. What's been going on, everybody? It has been a minute. There is so much going on out there in the UFO world. Just glad to be here with you on this Saturday afternoon. It's about to get rainy out here in California. I don't know where you're at in the world, but we are about to get some much needed rain. So I'm just thanking God for that. You would think that that's a bad situation, right? We're going to get like 3, 4, 5 days of torrential downpours out here. But a lot of you know that's the type of weather that we need out here. Because as they say, it never rains in Southern California. I mean, it rarely does. Definitely want to thank everybody for coming on in here. We're going to be talking about, and we're just going to kind of get in and out because obviously you saw the thumbnail. The question is disclosure day. Is it imminent? Is disclosure imminent? It's weird to say that, right? Because I think we know that at some point we have to get to the point where things are disclosed, or at least we have the realization of, most of the population out there that there is something going on here with the extraterrestrial presence. And so properly fitting. And, it's I'm sure tongue in cheek that Steven Spielberg named this film Disclosure Day. And I'm really hoping that he touches some points to really bring that home, right? And here's the thing. There's a lot of people out there, and technically this is going to be obviously in the sci-fi category, right? And there are sci-fi writers out there that when they write a script, they leave it up to their own imagination. Right, where this is something that I don't think you can really leave up to your own imagination. I think this is something, as history has shown with the first film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We're going to get into all that. We're just going to hope that this movie sticks more to truth and what we know about the presence, and hopefully that's what we get here. I'm really optimistic that that's the case, but we won't know till it comes out, right? So let's go ahead and react to this trailer here in just a moment. I also want to thank everybody for coming in. Kitty Catty Whack, thanks for showing on up. We do appreciate you. Here to support the great host of content, renew my membership. Thank you so very much, Kitty Catty Whack. Things have been slow here lately, and I know a lot of you have realized that as well. And I really appreciate you guys sticking through this transition period. There's some things that we have going on this end. Once again, it's a one-man show on this channel. I'm the man that does it all, the production, the hosting, the graphics, everything, right? So I'm trying to make sure that the content that we bring here, that we keep continuously raising the bar for presentation value, production value, and just for knowledge value, right? And just making sure that we put on shows that leave you thinking at the end of the day. That's what we have to do. That's our goal here. Because as you see, we rebranded as Truth, Transparency, and Humanity. And I think those are three really key things, that stand behind why I do this. And I know why a lot of you are involved in this subject. Is for truth, transparency, on behalf of humanity, getting to those answers. That's what this channel was built on, and that's what we'll continue to do here on the Social Dig. So with that being said, I definitely want to make sure that we get into some good stuff here. Works for NASA, and this guy, but then you just have those people that, forward facing, aren't ready to open up completely and have the conversation. And I think that's where he's at. But I tell him all the time, aliens are among us. And, truthfully, he often is ready to hang up the phone on me when I get into that. But I'm like, I try to come from an angle where, as crazy as this stuff sounds, we are realistically dealing with something that we don't understand, and it is likely not from here. All evidence and all things point to the case that whatever this is not from here. And so we do shows like this because we want to know what it is, what they are, where they come from. We're trying to get those answers slowly. We don't just want random answers. We don't want made up answers. We want to make sure that we get answers that line up with the facts that we have historical facts on a lot of these cases and sightings. So we're going to continue doing that here. Let me see. We got Mons Paradigm 5 saying, Hola, Diggs. Hola, Mons. Appreciate you coming on in. Thanks for showing up here to the show. Yes, you know it. You know it, Miss Catherine. For sure. Let's see. We have Super Crazy Movie Geek Intense Pre-Disclosure in 2026. Actual Disclosure 2027. I put that out there, and I'm not a date guy. I swear, I hate picking dates. I'm not a date guy. And so my whole thing is that, we know it's upcoming in the future, right? The thing that we can put our hat on is that this movie by Steven Spielberg, Disclosure Day, is happening in 2026. And we've talked about that all year. We've talked about that since we first got wind of it earlier this year when they talked about Steven Spielberg was filming this movie. We were all excited about it only because of the approach that was taken on the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? And we saw, here it is, 50 years later, that film still stands up. It still catalogs a lot of the things, and we're going to go over some of those things, right? I just want to kind of connect the dots on some of these things here this afternoon. Magneticus Attractus. Hey, buddy, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing on up to the show. Let's see. We have MHVH 5150. Appreciate you coming on in, saying sup right back to you. Appreciate you showing on up to the show. A lot of stuff we're going to have going on here. So if you're new, I'd appreciate a subscribe. We're trying to get the numbers up. We're trying to get on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're going to be doing some promotional things out there to try to also drive the numbers up, because I definitely think the conversations are going to start getting interesting going forward, and we'll have a 2025 year in review wrap up show here. I'll try to do it right after the holiday coming up here. Let's see. Human Data 8. Total government disclosure will never be a reality for the UAP community. Whistleblowers are just a catalyst to soft disclosure. There are so many reasons why that statement is correct. I mean, I can't really go against that. The hope is always there, right? If you've ever been around on this channel, we always say disclosure comes through us, and it comes through the work that we do. It comes like this show here, and experiencers, coming out and getting the courage to tell their stories, their authentic stories, and adding to the conversation, right, to kind of build this picture. Because I think, I've always said this, I think if you look around the world and you gather up all of the experiencers, and they all were able to bring their stories together in one place, you would have a picture. You would have a full picture, undeniable picture of what exactly is going on here. And with that being said, that's disclosure not needing any government interaction at all. I'm one that says we don't need them at all. But the cherry on top would obviously be if they showed us the bodies, because that's one thing we don't have as a community. We don't have access to bodies to bring those to the table, and we don't have access to craft unless, we lean on our CE5 specialists, which I've always said is something we should do anyways. But, those are the things that they would be able to validate. And yeah, they probably never will for obvious reasons, government power, not wanting to relinquish power, because of the dollar. There's so many things and reasons why they won't release the files. If you know what I mean. They won't release the UFO files or any other files that put them in a precarious position, right? And so I think that's kind of what's going on. So I agree with you, Human Data 8. Thank you for coming in. Let's see. Wes W. Decker. Hey, what's up, Mr. W. Decker? Appreciate you coming on in, saying howdy, Mr. Rob G. Thanks for coming on into the show here this afternoon. Just gonna, I'm excited about this film coming out, right? Because I feel like, I don't know for sure, but I just have the feeling that Steven Spielberg understands the moment. I think he does. Now, first movie, it's historically known that he hadn't had any UFO sightings, so there were obviously, and we're going to get into this, but there, I think at this point, seeing the success of the film that he did all these years later, think he understands where he could contribute to the conversation. And I think maybe that's where we're at. So appreciate you, Wes Decker, Wes W. Decker, coming on in here, hanging out with us. Let's see. Kitty Catty Whack, really do appreciate your support of the show here. $9.99 super chat, thank you so much. Mons Paradigm 5, thank you so much for your support here tonight. And just trying to do what we do here and make sure we get the conversation moving forward. Mike Jones, Mike Jones, saying greetings, appreciate you, Mike Jones, for coming on into the building as well. Wes W. Decker, wishing you and your family very happy holidays. Thank you so much, sir, and same to you, and thank you for your support of the show here tonight. Definitely awesome. Let's see. What else do we have here? Okay. All right. So we are current. So I want to go ahead and let me jump into our next scene here. And I wanted to get ready to play this trailer. And hopefully, come on, Steven Spielberg, let's just preface it with this. I don't know if this is technically fair use, but we're trying to promote the movie, your message, and I think, for some people out there, this is just more promotion, right? So hopefully we can get through this trailer here without getting whacked. But if not, when the trailer is done playing, it should allow us to come back. So here's fingers crossed. We're going to go ahead and get into the trailer for Disclosure Day. Maybe if I stay on screen with it, it won't. So that's what I'll do. I'll stay on screen. Here we go.
If you found out we weren't alone, if someone showed you, proved it to you, would that frighten you?
Good morning, Kansas City. Let's take a look at today. Today's.
People have a right to know the truth. It belongs to 7 billion people.
What is it?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you. So I'm gonna show you.
What are you gonna do?
Full disclosure to the whole world. All at once. People keep wondering. Encountering the unknown. They're coming! They are starved for the truth.
Do you think there could be others?
Why would he make such a vast universe? Yet save it only for us?
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So obviously, here's the way that I'm looking at this, right? And now we're gonna get into some slides and things here. So everybody's seen that, and it's an awesome trailer. Kind of makes you think about a bunch of different things, like where could this go? Before we do that, though, let me go ahead and make sure that we get through a couple of these slides here. I want to make sure that anyone who may be new here, and even people who have been here before, know the number here. You can call us at any time. This is the line. This goes to me, directly to me, 856-843-3444, or that is 856-THE-DIGG. If you're outside the United States, that's 001 first, then 856-843-3444, or that's 001-856-THE-DIGG. And we do appreciate Miss Catherine Jones saying 'tis the season for disclosure. Thank you so much, Miss Catherine Jones. Definitely love you and love your support here over here on the Social Dig. So thank you so much. Thank you. And I guess I could say a Merry Christmas to you. Some people, when you're in the customer service world, right, you get used to saying happy holidays. So I definitely want to say happy holidays for those who do not celebrate this particular holiday. But then there are those that do. And so I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, any of the other holidays that fall in this. This goes out to you guys. So appreciate you. And moving in further here, we have obviously memberships available on this channel. We're growing. We're getting into a new era where a lot of things are going to be happening here. I have a couple surprises coming up here soon. And memberships are definitely what helps this channel stay afloat. So any support, super chats, even you just showing up really at the end of the day. But memberships and things like that go to help pay subscription fees and just things that I'm trying to use to make this show better and the other shows that we have upcoming here on this channel. So any and all support is welcome and appreciated. Also, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, as I said before. So if you have any friends, any family members that may be just leaning on the fence and want to kind of come in to the conversation, I think this is a good place to come. Because we have a humanity first approach. It's really, we tackle conversations that affect humanity and where we go as human beings. And just so happens that the UFO subject, the extraterrestrial presence, these are all things that are going to change how we view this world and potentially allow us to kind of shift our path as humanity. You don't get these chances often at all. If you look in history, big moments in time, it's very rare that you happen to be living in a moment where you can kind of help affect where we go. And that's why I'm loving doing what we do here. So road to 1,000 subscribers. Every subscriber is valuable, and I love everybody who has come aboard. And just spread the word. Share the show on social medias if you can. That'd be awesome. Also, all right, so getting into the actual show here. So we obviously just saw the trailer, Disclosure Day, right? This was courtesy of Steve Bassett. Steve Bassett went ahead and posted this photo that you see right next to me. Ooh, opposite way. Right next to me that way, where it says, all will be disclosed, Spielberg, June 12th, 2026. This was posted on one of those huge billboards in Times Square. So it's, number one, global attention, right? Spielberg's one of those type of directors who you have to pay attention to. Usually doesn't, release BS. There could be a few things. I know my brother pointed out a few things to me that he was like, Spielberg had a hand in that. But, what I pointed out to him is that the reason why, Close Encounters is held in such a high regard is because of the fact that it wasn't just left up to the director's imagination. I'm sure some of it went in there, but he leaned on historical data and facts, right? So starting back in 1976, whenever he started writing or beginning to film the film, he actually came with this movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? Hopefully you've seen it. This is one of those moments where I used to do, and I'm going with, I have the segment called Science Fiction to Science Fact, where the whole idea is that you look at something that you once deemed to be science fiction and remember how you felt about that, and then look at it again through the new lenses now that you know that it's science fact, right? So this is one of those things there, right? This came out at a time where the stigma was high, really high, and it's listed as science fiction. And no, not a lot of people really believed that this was something that was occurring. They thought it was just simply, a movie, a script. However, the reason why it's aged so well is because this was based off of information that was gathered from UFO researchers, Jacques Vallée and J. Allen Hynek, right? And I think we have some photos of them here. But so I wanted to point out some of the things that still stand the test of time today. If you go back and watch that movie through these new lenses, you get a new appreciation for the movie, the filmography, the script, the everything that was in there. Even though CGI wasn't a thing really, and but you still can one-to-one look at certain parts of the movie and say, yeah, that's something I saw yesterday, right? Or that's something this person reported today, 50 years later, the same exact thing. So I'm hoping that he goes along that same path this time and leans into some individuals. But some of the things that stood out in the movie that you can look at today would be orbs or lights in the sky. These were so on point and so authentic to what people currently talk about. And let me bring this up full screen for everybody. You can go outside literally and see one of these things now, or not, maybe now, depending on where you live at and depending on if they're up there. The point is that these are being seen still daily. The same orbs that they show here on Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And you got to think about it. If you're old enough to remember watching this at a time when you weren't into UFOs, and just remember how you felt about it, and it was cool. It was a cool story, right? But then once you kind of had your confirmation moment, and once you were able to see, like, yeah, this stuff is real, and you look back on it, it's so amazing how accurate a lot of these depictions were, right? They have film of orbs that look just like these over the ocean that are floating over deep ocean, right? So I thought that was amazing. These are the things that stood out to me when I'm watching the movie. I'm like, wow, they talk about that, right? A lot of people report exactly that right there. And Steven Spielberg hit the nail on the head, right? And admittedly, like I stated, back in that time, when he was doing his press run for this, or, he was being interviewed even in the years after this, 10th year anniversary on talk shows, he admits, and I don't know as of now, I would think maybe he's had some sort of experience by now, but back then he had no experience. He had no direct connection to the extraterrestrial presence as far as like a personal experience to speak to. So, it was that's how you knew that he was working with some advisors, because to get this so to the point, right? You could have imagined anything, right? And I think that's the point of it. If we left Disclosure Day, this upcoming film, up to another director, they could imagine something that doesn't necessarily line up with the historical data. And I think that's, at this point, I think it's the responsible thing to do is to, lean into the researchers if you're going to make a movie about it, unless it's just some fantastical tale, right? Then I think it would serve you well to lean into researchers to kind of get some background on the film that you're making. Except for like the Alien series, right? The Xenomorph, right? It's kind of creepy, right? I kind of like that like it is, but when you're going to get into things like Close Encounters, these little personal stories, there's also No One Will Save You. If you haven't seen that, I was so into that movie that I didn't realize until the end of the movie that they only spoke one word. I think it was only one word, if that. Entire movie, extraterrestrial presence, interactions with gray aliens, all this full movie, an hour and a half, and they didn't speak at all. Maybe one or two words the entire movie. It was crazy. But, we're starting to see some more of those films that kind of lean into where you can look at the movie or the film and you can tell that they talked to someone. They didn't just create that. They didn't just, leave that up to their imagination. They definitely consulted with someone on that, or they were experiencer themselves. You're starting to see that more and more come out in films. Another thing that when you look back and you think about it, you hear stories about this all the time as well. Human bases in the mountains, right? This is where, no spoiler alert, where, he and his, and I think it was his wife, right? They end up going to the mountain, Devil's Mountain, and they go and they kind of get past the guards, the military, and make their way in to see what's going on in there, and then they come up on the alien base. And I won't tell you what happens once it gets there, but these are one of the things that people talk about all the time, right? I'm like, I don't have any proof of it myself, but when you think about this, the encounters and the stories that people tell over time, this was another one of those things that you were able to point to and say, yeah, people do talk about that. People bring that up all the time. The fact that the government is working with extraterrestrials in some base somewhere. And when I talked to Mary Rodwell a few weeks ago, it was either her or Susan Hansen. But I stated to her, I said, when I think about humans interacting with aliens in some sort of, working partnership in some underground base or some base in the mountain somewhere, I'm thinking of like gray aliens. However, if they are these human types that people report, then that makes a lot of sense that could be a working relationship. So just once again, Dolce, right? Dolce, the base of Dolce, and various other bases that we've talked about as well, where there's supposed to be this human alien interaction. This is depicted in the movie as well, right? So if you didn't know he had an advisor and you watched this movie for the first time, there would be a lot of things ringing. You'd be saying through the whole movie, as I was when I rewatched it after having my realization that was definitely something that people always talk about. He had to talk to someone about that. Someone had to tell him that this is, a reported working relationship. Doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't necessarily mean that, but it definitely just shows that he, did homework on and decided to put this in there instead of making something up, right? Which is why this movie still 50 years later stands the test of time and makes me excited to get into whatever it is he's coming with next. Another thing that stood out in this movie, you have encounters on lonely, dark roads, right? This is the part of the film where he's in the truck. It looks like the guards are pulling up behind him. It looks like a set of headlights through his rear window. And then those lights just kind of raise up and go above his vehicle. And then you have the realization that it's a UFO. How many times and how many people have you heard? How many experiencers have talked about having an encounter on a dark, lonely road? This is one of the reasons why I used to be a guy that would take those dark roads, right? And this is one of the things I talk about, having freedom of choice, right? So we should know the information. We should know that there's a possibility that if you go on some remote road in the middle of the night, far away from civilization, we should be under the understanding that even though probably not going to happen, but there is at least a possibility that you could run into something out there, something that isn't from this world. Then it allows you to make decisions, right? Educated or, educated decisions, right? Because you could choose not to go. Same thing I say about Bigfoot. If Bigfoot's in the forest, there should be a sign out there for people who are just casual, don't really know about what Bigfoot is. They should know there's something out there other than mountain lions and bears and the things that we already know are out there, right? Because you need to be able to make a educated, safe choice for your personal well-being or your family's well-being. So these dark roads, I'll just tell you a quick story. I don't, if you're familiar with this drive, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm a dude that okay, we do a map quest or map, that shows how old I am. Not map quest, but Google Maps, right? Google Maps to a particular destination, and I'll take the side roads to get there. That's me. That's the guy that I am, right? So I used to take this trip from Sacramento to Las Vegas. Now, the normal way to take this trip, where most people take this trip, is traveling south down through California and then crossing over into Las Vegas, right? Populated the entire way. So me being the type of guy I am, I'm like, I'm going to go the other way. So the other way takes you from Sacramento into Reno, Nevada. And then between Reno, Nevada and Las Vegas is hundreds of miles of empty desert, right? And I took this multiple times. Middle of the night, pitch black, can't see anything, right? This is before I had the realization that we were actually being visited by these things, and they do encounter people on dark, lonely roads. I pulled over in the middle of the darkness, to take a restroom break, and I just think about that stuff now, and I'm like, I wouldn't do that now. There's no way I would do that. And once again, it goes back to a lot of other people who have often talked about running into some of these things either by themselves or with certain family members on these dark, lonely roads. Cash Landrum, I think Jason Sands, one of the whistleblowers, has talked about that. There's various people who have talked about this, and it would be a scary thing to come across in the middle of the night. So it's a reason why I make a really educated choice to maybe not go the back road on this trip. Or maybe I will. But at least having the information and knowing that this is something that a lot of people report gives me the opportunity to either put myself in a position like that or not. But once again, this is one of the things that people report lines up very well. Anyone who knows these things, when they watch this movie and they see this scene, it's another thing that kind of rings with that person. And it's another thing that stood out to me. And obviously, as we talked about, because if you haven't had an experience, there's no way you could hit all these points on your own, right? Just leaving it up to your imagination. So they had advisors. So Steven Spielberg had advisors on this film. And we know now and know today those people to be J. Allen Hynek and also Jacques Vallée, who Jacques Vallée was portrayed in the film by, I don't remember the character's name, but this is where this is where he was getting his information from. Now, that's a good place to get your information from. A UFO researcher, a serious researcher who is still out there today, and you'd have to wonder if he has reconnected with Jacques Vallée in any way to kind of give advice on this next film. You got to wonder about that. But you can credit Jacques Vallée, J. Allen Hynek, and I'm sure some other individuals who were, key in the UFO research scene in that time in the 70s that would have, been able to kind of help bring this project to life and make it like a staple. It's almost like a documentary instead of a movie, Yes, there's some fantastical things that are kind of depicted in there because you have to do that, right? When we're talking about film adaptation, but it's a lot like a documentary in the sense that it definitely covers a lot of the key things that experiencers talk about. So I am very optimistic that being that that's the route that he took, being that that was the route that he took and trusted these, at a time when the stigma's super high on UFOs and, he hadn't had an experience himself, to trust in these researchers, which most of the people out there were saying this doesn't exist. So in turn, that means that these researchers must not know what they're talking about. And he still went above and beyond the stigma to be able to trust in the information that he was getting on I'm sure, a huge budget film. And, he took the gamble. He took the gamble, which was the right thing to do, and which is why it still stands up today. So, getting into Disclosure Day, we knew this was coming. It was a working title. We didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And, we've been following it. I think we first heard about this, or at least we first started talking about this on this show, I think last spring, right? Had a few different working titles, Disclosure. Some people said it was called The Dish. It was a few different things. But the whole thing that excited me about this is exactly what we just talked about. The approach that Steven Spielberg took on the first film. If there's anybody else out there who's going to be able to tackle this in the right way and be open-minded enough to reach out to those in the community to get the data for this and then present it in the right way, it's Steven Spielberg. Now, this is only December, so we still have 6 months till this comes out. There's going to be a lot of other trailers that come out, and usually, in most cases, when you see a trailer and you watch the movie, you're like, oh, they took all the best parts of the movie and put it in the trailer. Like, you find that out after you watch the movie. You're like, oh, all they did was took the best parts of the movie, put it in this trailer, and so I've seen it all already. I've seen the movie, essentially. I think what may be happening here is there may be a little deception going on as far as doing the opposite. I think they're showing you parts that may not necessarily be key to the meat of the movie. And I'll give you an example of who also did that. Jordan Peele. So if you remember Nope, and you remember the trailers leading up to the movie coming out, everyone was under the impression that it was going to be a nuts and bolts UFO movie, where this is a nuts and bolts UFO, where typical gray aliens come out of this craft, and just that sort of movie. That's what the trailer gave off. That's the vibe the trailer gave off, based on how they made the trailer, which I thought was brilliant. And it kind of, it puts you in a situation, it put him in a situation, I'm sure, where that was taking a gamble. Because now that you've seen the movie and you look back on the trailer, now you can kind of tell, because you know how the movie goes, what parts are being shown in the trailer. But the trailer on its own, the movie was totally different than that. And it was so different that it could have gone a couple different ways, right? Because I always tell the story with Nope. When I went to go see it, just like this movie, couldn't wait to see it. Months and months passed. Finally, the day comes. Sometime in the summer, I remember it was super hot. I go in the studio or the movie theater and I watch the film, and I'm waiting for some of the parts that I think are going to happen, right? Because it's supposed to be gray aliens. It looked like there was gray alien, and looked like we're talking about nuts and bolts crap. And I'm just waiting for these things to happen during the movie, and then they're not happening. and then come to find out this craft is actually, something that's alive, and there are no actual aliens. The alien is the craft itself. And so when the movie went off, I'm just sitting in my seat. The credits are rolling, and I'm just sitting there in my seat. I'm like, I didn't know what to think. Do I like it? I don't know. Am I disappointed? Am I let down? Did I set my expectations too high? Were they not met in this moment? And within 5 minutes, I'm watching the credits roll. I'm sitting there having that moment. As I get up and I walk into the car, by the time I get to the car, it hits me that, wow, that was actually brilliant what he did. Because there are people that talk about these craft displaying sort of lifelike actions, and I tell you a million times, you've seen my film, the 47 UFOs that I saw right here in my own backyard, broad daylight, clear blue sky, all disappeared, and they were moving in this lifelike sort of quality. And then I looked around and I'm thinking of other cases where people have said the same thing. Like in some cases, it seems like these craft are actually alive. And so I was like, wow, wait a minute, that's brilliant. So who did he talk to? Right? And so it's a situation where it's like, for one, I think that he may have had some advisors on that, but more importantly, the way he put his trailer together, you had no clue what to expect when you came into that theater. He showed you enough to get you there without spoiling the movie. Right? And maybe that's some of what we have going on here with this movie. Some of the things that I did look at, and these are questions, right? And I would love to know how you guys think about this. Actually, let me get down in the chat here because I would love to see what you guys think. Okay, so, some of the clips of the trailer, because that's all we have, right? Disclosure Day. Let's just start there. In the literal sense, it's Disclosure Day. It's the day that disclosure happens, and it says it in the trailer where we want everyone's eyes, right? Disclosure in front of the world. That's something I always talk about. Like, how can we have a moment like that where we can bring disclosure in for the world, right? And I can't wait to see what some of the ideas that they came up with as far as how we could actually do this, because this could be the blueprint on what we should do to gain the attention of everyone at one time and bring this forward. I'm hoping this movie is a tool and a blueprint to kind of help do that. Because once again, I really think Steven Spielberg understands the importance of the moment. I'm sure he's been watching the hearings, the UFO hearings. I'm sure he's been watching the progress in this subject, the videos that have been released. I'm sure he's on top of all that, right? Which is something he didn't have back in Close Encounter time, but he has it now. I'm sure he's been following along with the story. And if he is a proponent of disclosure, which I would think he is if he's making a movie called Disclosure Day, then he's probably fed up with the process and wants to do what he can to try to expedite the process. Right? Understanding that the government won't do it and it has to be done this other way. So Disclosure Day, there is no other title that it should be. It should be that, because that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to disclosure, and we're trying to find the best ways to do it, right? So I'm very optimistic that this thought has gone into what we're going to eventually be able to see here. So, but some of the things that stood out to me, and these are questions, and you guys can actually chime in and just tell me what you think about this. So one of the clips in the trailer, were these nuns sitting around the room, right? And it makes it seem like there's this one moment where the reporter, weather person, is having this moment and that everybody is watching this moment take place. Maybe, I'm I'm going to say that that's probably not what happens, right? That's probably just a moment, but all these different angles and how they're showing these different people around the world watching this moment, I don't think that it all focuses around that. I'm just going to, I don't know that to be true, but there are certain things that make me feel like that that's not the case. We'll end up seeing, but to me, showing this scene is the question of acceptance by religions, right? Which is something that we talk about, how a religion is going to be affected when disclosure comes. Which makes me feel like this may be the blueprint, because there are a lot of the talking points of the things we're going to confront in the disclosure moment were being shown in this trailer. So acceptance by religion. Did anyone else catch that? Am I the only one that saw that? Let me know what you thought. Also, as I just talked about a moment ago, disclosure with the world watching, right? Which is a very important thing, because I've talked about, at least for sure, times where we had the world's attention, which was during COVID. And we don't get many of these chances. If you think historically, prior to the pandemic, where we had moments where we had the entire world, the world's attention at one time. It was during the pandemic, right? Which was like, wow, we didn't ever think a moment like that can happen. Everyone's focused on the same thing. People are looking at society and understanding, wait, we don't have to do it this way. One of these awakening moments for humanity, right? Then that passes and we're like, did we miss the moment? Could we have utilized that moment better? Right? Maybe we'll never get another moment like this again. It's hard to get the entire world's attention at once, focus on the same thing. Right? Then we had a few other things that came up, right? We had the 3-Eye Atlas even this year. We had the drone situation in New Jersey. As I point out, there's been other things that happened back to back to back where the world's attention was once again brought, to one moment. And it's like, okay, now you learn from your mistakes. You have to use these moments to deliver the message that you want to deliver while you have everyone's attention. And, maybe this is another one of those moments, but through theatrics, right? Because you'll have this obviously being globally promoted, and commercials will be everywhere for this film. And if it is the blueprint, and you have a movie studio behind this pumping millions and millions of dollars into promoting the fact that people need to pay attention to this, is essentially one of those moments that we're talking about, right? Because without the movie, we depend on us doing something like this, having these conversations and hoping that it gets out there enough to enough people, and various other platforms doing the same thing. Not a lot of money behind the message, but this will be an opportunity where this is a huge budget film. I'm sure it'll be promoted globally in multiple languages all around the world. And if it is the blueprint, it'll be the perfect thing to sit on someone's plate, and then also follow that up with this conversation that we're having. So this will be another time. Now we know it's coming up. So, there's other show hosts out there. And so we should probably be aligning, our conversations to kind of build off the momentum that this is going to bring. I think it's going to bring momentum. I could be wrong on that. It could be, as my brother thinks, it's a cash grab. I don't think it's that, but he doesn't really understand the deeper meaning on why I feel that way. I don't feel it's a cash grab. I definitely feel like it's being done purposely. And I think that things in it are going to matter to the moment. They're going to resonate with things that we probably just been through. and is going to be the thing that I think bridges the conversation for everyone globally. Those are the expectations I'm putting on it. Steven Spielberg, don't let me down, man. Don't make me look bad. So, disclosure with the world watching, which is one of the most important things. I think we kind of saw that in that trailer. And I think it was purposely shown in the trailer, these things that we're hitting right here, right? So, acceptance by religion, disclosure with the world watching. Here was another thing. Maybe I'm wrong about this. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But telepathy, psionics, in this particular scene where it seemed like they were trying to connect mentally. This is what I got from this scene. And the thing that it pointed to me was maybe telepathy, psionics, which is obviously one of the big talking points in the UFO community and in just experiences worldwide, that this is a thing. Telepathy is a thing. It's something that is a real ability that human beings have. And a lot of people report this sort of communication in encounters. So is this what the trailer, is this another point that the trailer was touching? Did they have a list and said, in this trailer, we want to show acceptance of religion, disclosure with the world watching, telepathy, psionics, and they just made sure they crossed off everything they wanted on this list, because for it to be a 2-minute trailer, you want to get the most out of it. And I think hitting those points, just like in Close Encounters, hitting key points that make people say, I recognize that, or I identify with that. And I think maybe that's part of what we did here. So, telepathy, psionics, they had this other part in the movie here where they showed crop circles, right? This is a controversial one right here. But it's always been, when we talk about crop circles, there's obviously the people that think that these are being done by human beings, that they're hoaxes. There's the Fibonacci sequence is depicted in too many of these things, which makes it very unlikely that a human could do it or build or put this together without being observed doing it, like the intricacy and the time it would take to do it. So not only that, but then we have the Nazca lines, right? So the Nazca lines are, I would say, maybe humans' version of crop circles, right? Where humans have created these, and maybe that's the back and forth conversation. Maybe it's their language is crop circles, and our language is, the images that are depicted in Nazca lines, and maybe that was a potential conversation that was trying to happen at some point. Maybe we were seeing these crop circles, and our response to that was to do the Nazca lines. And I still think, I don't know if they're, technically if they're still doing crop circles now. Haven't really heard of a lot of reports of them being done, which is another reason why people think that they were being hoaxed. But once again, Fibonacci sequence and the intricacy of a lot of these crop circles just couldn't be done by human beings without someone being aware of this happening. It would take way too much time for these things to appear overnight on a farm where the farmer's farmhouse is literally right there. So, yeah. So I'm just thinking that this maybe ties to communication, which I think could be an obvious choice, right? So that, I'm a little mixed on this one, though. This one, I wasn't really sure. But the best thing I could pick from this was maybe channeling or regression, because it seemed like he was focusing on something visually, mentally, and they had these electrodes attached to his head. So I don't know if this is channeling or if this is more regression, right? Where he's recalling maybe something that happened, and maybe, just I've talked about the fact that when people get abducted, what's probably happening there is It's an experience that we're not supposed to remember, right? And then some people just happen to be awake or wake up during the process, and which is why you have a small number of people who recall abductions, right? It just makes sense. And then regression potentially, because the memory should still be there, right? If you went through the experience. So regression ends up, I think, being one of the things that could uncover that. And I want to say, I think I also asked Mary Rodwell this, but like a year or so ago, that if you had an opportunity to take everyone in the world and regress them, would you find out that more people than not probably had some sort of contact, even though they were unaware? And she said, yeah, this is probably likely the case. So it would make more sense that's how it would happen, right? And then this is how you would recall it. So this could be regression. This could be channeling. Not really sure. This one here, where they're in this room, right? All these different screens showing different things. So this could be like just the national security state and the way that they monitor us right now as human beings with all these traffic lights and cameras everywhere. So this could be something like that. But I was like, wait, what if it's because and it could still be that. I'm still kind of on the fence with that, but I'm like, could it be UFO, UAP monitoring? So maybe on these different screens, they are depicting UFO encounters, like they're monitoring them. Like there's a group, this secret shadow group that we talk about, in some room somewhere, and they are literally monitoring anytime something comes into our airspace or anytime something materializes, and they have satellite cameras or some sort of imagery of what's going on. And now that I look at it, I'm looking, if you look in the upper, like the mid right corner of this, there is something that looks like a UFO on one of those screens, and actually maybe on a couple of those screens. So that might be what this is. This might be a room where they're able to, monitor UFOs, UAPs globally. I think that's what it is, because I'm seeing a lot of images of UFOs on these screens. So that might be exactly what that is. We may have cracked the case on that one. So we may be looking at the shadow government, right? This is what they're depicting as the shadow government. These are the people that have the need to know, potentially, and are just literally watching these things happen, watching your encounters happening, watching you get abducted, right? Some people have said that there was an agreement made with the extraterrestrials where the government said, hey, so you can abduct so many people in exchange for technology. This has been something that has been said in the community. Now, is that what this is depicting, right? If you think about it, it would make sense. It would make sense that they would want this capability, right? Those people in those back rooms, they would want to know wherever these things are popping up. It'd be the smart thing. You would want to know. You need to know, because in case, turns out that this is some sort of threat, right? You want to be able to know what's going on at any given time. So that could be what this is. I would love to know, obviously when the movie comes out, what this is. But this is my breakdown of it. This is kind of what I gathered from it. I know a lot of people did videos on this trailer, their reactions, but I wanted to think about it a little bit and kind of really see if we could connect some dots, right? Because that's what it's all about. Trying to get some answers, trying to figure out, the puzzles that we end up being presented in life, not just UFOs, but in life in general, right? So the question for me would be, with all this being said, is Disclosure Day, who do you think are the advisors? So I'd love to see in the chat, anybody, who do you guys think Steven Spielberg is leaning on to get information for this film, if he even is? I really hope he is, because he did it the first time. It's smart to do that. And it would only make sense that he does it this time. If he doesn't do it, I think it's a complete failure. I'll call it that, right? If he doesn't lean on advisors, once again, like he did in Close Encounters, I think he's a missed opportunity. But if he did, which he likely did, who do you think the advisors are, right? I would love to hear what some of you guys think. Jacques Vallée obviously is still with us, and so I would assume that he'd bring him back in the fold, because why not? He just has that many more years of UFO research and knowledge, so it would totally make sense. But anybody else out there, do you have anybody who you think? Lou Elizondo, David Grush, are these guys really the ones you would bring in, right? Who would you bring in? Preston Dennett? Who would you bring in? Who would you advise to on this film? A lot of the older researchers are no longer here, right? So it's like, who's left out there that you think would be worth Steven Spielberg bringing in to consult on this film to make sure that he drives this home? Super Crazy Movie Geek says Stephen Greer. Okay. Yeah. I could see that. I could definitely see that. That can make sense for me, for sure. Appreciate you, Woo Riders DG. Awesome guy. Best you followed you podcaster. Free agent Rob Jeezy. Can y'all dig it? Yeah, just back to business, man. Back to business. Back to business. We got to get to the answers, right? We got to. Let's see. Wes Decker. Spielberg definitely didn't call me, so that shows good judgment on his part. Nah, I think you're knowledgeable though, Wes. You're definitely like myself. You dip into different pots of data because you should, right? That's how you compile. That's how you take that data and bring it back home and compile it and say, okay, this is probably what we're dealing with. So yeah, I think you'd probably be a good person to go to, man, for sure. Just based on knowledge that you put together. Who else do we have out there? Let's see. We got Juliana McGill. Yep. Hope you had a good family gathering, Mr. G. Good to see you. Yeah. I'll take a moment real quick before we jump back into this. Jake Paul got his jaw broke last night, and I was happy about it. Is that bad? Is that bad? I hope it's not. Boxing is boxing, but I had a great night. Last night. So thank you, Juliana McGill. Let's see. Miss Catherine Jones hit us with a list. Okay. Yo, I like this list. Lou Elizondo, David Grush, Steve Bassett, Jacques Vallée, and Chris Mellon. Woo. That's a power list. I would agree. That's a strong list of advisors. And I think there's definitely something, nuggets you can pull from each individual to kind of shape this. Definitely. I love it. Flat Sixer, appreciate you coming on in. Rob G always gets to the sweet spot in ufology. Thank you, sir, for coming on in and being part of the show, man. Thanks for your support. You're always here to help out, and I appreciate you, sir. Let's see. Maggie M10. I didn't even say your name, I don't think. Maggie M10, because you snuck in, I think, after the beginning of the show. Thank you for coming in, Maggie M10, all the way from the other side of the world. Let's see. Yep, Super Crazy Movie Geek also says Steve Bassett would be a good advisor for sure. Okay. Magneticus. Boxing Day is next week. Right. You're a funny guy, man. Funny guy, Magneticus. Let's see. What else do we have? Super Crazy Movie Geek says Chris Bledsoe. Okay. I can see that too, because once again, it appears that in the clip or the thing we just showed that maybe they are leaning into, psionics possibly, or telepathy is one of the things. And like I said, I'm gonna hope, and I think that what we saw in the trailer doesn't. It won't. I don't think it's going to tell you what the movie is, right? And I'm really hoping that, because I don't want all the good parts of the movie to be in the trailer, right? I want it to be like Nope, where we were intrigued with the trailer. It brought us in, but then it took us this whole other way. And I think that that's what we're being set up for, and I think that's awesome. I think that is definitely awesome. Okay. Yeah, no, that's a great list. I love that list. Chris Bledsoe. We had, let me bring this list up again. Starred. Chris Bledsoe, and then Miss Catherine has some really great ones. Elizondo, David Grush, and a few others. I can't find it now. But no, good stuff. And that's kind of what this is all about. So make sure that we know that, this is a place where we could come and just have these conversations, right? We're talking it through. That's what you should do. I don't know. I haven't watched other reactions to this trailer because I wanted to make sure that my reaction was my reaction. And I usually do it that way. But definitely appreciate you guys coming in and having this conversation. I think it was a good one. One other thing I wanted to leave you guys with. This was something I saw online, and I thought it was, when we talk about advisors and we talk about where a director could get this information from. So it looks like the Nazca mummy. I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying there is that the Nazca mummy, at this point, remember when it first came out, a lot of people was like hoax, hoax, hoax. And even I felt that way as well. But I did say as well, let's kind of put it on the to the side. Let's let scientists get in there, do their little thing, their experiments, let them determine if it's something artificial or if it's something that's real. And as of lately, the story doesn't go away on these things. There's been reports that they are real. No, and you don't have to put a lot of stock in this, but I know I heard it through Ross Coulthard talking about that they've been verified to be actual beings, and they had an idea that maybe 13,000 years old. So I'm just saying, we don't know for sure if that's the truth or not. This is what's being said and what's being reported lately. If this was a hoax and it was just easily proven that these things were not real, this story would not still be around. I don't think, not in today's age. I don't think that this story would last this long. But it's just kind of funny that just so happens that these things that are Nazca mummies look like the Greys that were depicted in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And then we're also compared at some point to another Steven Spielberg depiction, E.T. So is it a coincidence that these Nazca mummies that they're saying are real now, or real beings, whatever they are, 13,000 years old, potentially? We know Spielberg had advisors back in the day. Is it a coincidence that it looks just like the Greys he had in this film and then also resembles E.T., the extraterrestrial? I'll let you guys take that one home. Think about that. I just thought it was crazy, which is why I wanted to go ahead and add this in here last. But you got to at least think about it. You got to at least think about it. So once again, we can't wait. Disclosure day being imminent, whether it's actual disclosure or it's the framework or the blueprint for disclosure, either one is going to be good, I feel like. And so we definitely want to make sure that, when this does come out, go out and support it. Go see it in the theater. Take a friend. This would be a really good time and a really good excuse, right? Because my brother, for instance, sort of acts like he's not into the thing, but I know he knows this is real. So maybe I take him to the film, right? If this is going to be a blueprint, I think it would be a good opportunity to gather a bunch of people that wouldn't normally maybe watch a UFO documentary or wouldn't necessarily tune into a UFO show and maybe get them to go see this movie. And I think this could be that gateway into having that broader conversation. So with that being said, once again, I want to thank everybody for coming in. It was another awesome show. We are still on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So please tell a friend. Please share the video on your socials. Would love to get as many people in here as we can as we grow this channel. It's a lot of work to do here, and I have a lot of things coming up. We're going to keep raising the bar quality-wise, production-wise, content-wise, and I have a few tricks up my sleeve still yet. So thanks for your patience. Thanks for sticking around. And also, let me once again thank our super chatters for tonight. You guys are very awesome, and all the members with the memberships. You guys just don't know how much I really appreciate that, and the channel appreciates that because it allows us to keep paying for subscriptions and whatnot. So, Kitty Catty Whack, thank you so much for your support here tonight. Mons Paradigm 5, thank you so much for your support as well. Wes W. Decker, appreciate your support here tonight, sir. Miss Catherine Jones, thank you so much for your support. Maggie M10 from all the way on the other side of the world, appreciate your support here tonight. Awesome show. I definitely want to do another one before we get into the holiday here. So I'm going to whip something up, expect something here within the next day or two. But one way you can know when we go live is if you hit the subscribe button, if you're here for the first time, and the notification bell. That way you'll know next time we go live. With that being said, obviously memberships are available. You can click the description. In the description, there's a link in there. You can click. Any help, support is appreciated. Also, the social Discord, we'll be getting that back up. I know some of you already have access in there, and you guys can join as much as you want. I'm going to be more active in there, though, coming soon here. So we're going to, once again, I want to try to do movies, or we're going to figure something out, something special to do within the Discord as well. Also, the number to put in your phones is 856-843-3444, or that is 856-THE-DIGG. If you're outside the U.S., like Maggie M10, then you dial 001 first, then 856-843-3444, or 001-856-THE-DIGG. This has been the definitive UFO news show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Pleasure hanging out with you guys tonight. Much love. Take care of each other, and we will see each other before the holiday. But if, in case something happens, because I know I'll be leaving out of town on Christmas Eve, so we'll have up until Tuesday to go ahead and do another show. So what is that? A couple days from now. So in case something drastic happens within that time, I'll post something on the channel here in our community area, and just in case, have a happy holiday in case I don't see you until then. That being said, guys, much love. Let me go ahead and bring up full screen here. All right. Much love. Take care. And I can't wait to get with you guys again to have this conversation. Once again, if you are here for the first time, we'd appreciate you hitting the subscribe button, sharing this with people that you know, and help us get the word out there. Yeah, that's what I want for Christmas. So much love, guys. Have a great rest of your night. Talk to you soon. Take care.